Okay, so hi, my name is Craig Callender. Today I'm going to show you how to download PyCharm to start writing programs in Python. And then together we're going to look at a simple program that I wrote just a little while ago today, which is a restaurant tip calculator. So you go to a restaurant, you want to know how much you should tip. This program would help you figure that out. We'll start by looking at how to download PyCharm. So I'm just going to go ahead and share my screen here. Okay. We'll do that. Can actually get this out of the way and we'll go to the browser over here. So the easiest way to get to PyCharm is just to Google it like most things. Okay, and that'll take us over here to the page by JetBrains. Okay, so then we'll click over here on download and then you just pick whatever kind of system you have. I have a Mac, so I'm set up. If you had Windows, you would go over here. If you were doing Linux, you would obviously go over here. I have a Mac, so I would go down here, could grab the download, click that button. Not going to do it right now because I've actually already downloaded it, but it's pretty simple. You just follow the prompts. I can say it's a lot more difficult if you're trying to do it in Linux, at least with a Chromebook. I have my other laptop is a Chromebook, and trying to download it and get it to work in the Linux environment on a Chromebook is a little bit tedious, a little bit more difficult. But with a Mac and presumably with a Windows system, it's pretty simple. They usually have wizards to install things. So after you get it downloaded, it'll be in your download folder. We can actually get rid of that tab. I don't need it anymore. It'll be in your download folder, and you'll just open it here. It would be this DMG file. You can see I downloaded it about a week ago. From there, you would just pull it up. Here, I'm going to have to move my window of myself out of the way. Here, I've got the PyCharm folder, so I'll just click on that. And what you'll see on a Mac is this, and all you've got to do is grab the Python, excuse me, the PyCharm icon and just move it over here to applications. That'll install it in your applications. Once you have that done, it's pretty simple. You can go to, oh, that's something else. That's the assignment that I wrote for last Sunday that I was looking back at. Can move that out of the way. You can just go over here to your applications folder and go over here to PyCharm. You can click on it. That'll open it up. And you can see here I've got PyCharm already open on my machine. So we'll just move this apps folder here. Getting started is pretty simple with PyCharm. You can just go to File and do what you need to do, create a new project, etc. Open a project if you already have one on your machine. I've got one open right here because I wrote this tip calculator program just a little while ago. So I'll go through and show you. Let me close this out for a second because we don't need it just yet. I'll go through and kind of step through what this little program does. So first of all, up here, I just commented with the name of it. It's a tip calculator, right? I could call it, I might as well call it restaurant tip calculator because that's what I had. That's what I had called it here as the name of the file. Then here I just have another comment. You can see you can use these either single quotes or double quotes and just put 3 at the top, 3 at the bottom, and then you can make comments that way as well if you need a multi-line comment. So it says this program will help you determine how much to tip your server based on the quality of the food and the quality of the service. I didn't have quality, but I could say the quality of the service as well. You don't have to do this. When I was mapping this out for myself, I was kind of writing things out in pseudocode just with a pencil, and I was considering the variables that I would need. I just decided to make a list of the variables. So here I've got another comment with the variables that I'm going to be using for this program. So here, the first thing we're going to do is get input for the cost of the meal. So we're going to be looking at a couple of things. We're going to look at the cost of the meal. We're going to look at the quality of the meal, and we're going to look at the quality of the service. All 3 of those things are going to be input. Okay, so here I've commented, get input for meal cost. Input should be a float. The reason I'm making it a float right here is because we could use an integer, but if your meal doesn't cost an exact dollar amount, which it probably doesn't, then we're going to have a decimal. So we're making it a float. So originally what I did is I had meal cost is, well, first I had input and then made it a float after I thought about it a little bit. How much did you pay for your meal? I've got a space right here, and then I put in a $sign so that the user will then see there's a $sign already there. You can just put in the number amount, and that'll give us a float. I wanted to make sure though that what we got was actually a number, and somebody didn't just write out $20, TWENTY dollars or something like that. So I actually looked this up. I actually used ChatGPT to help me out with this while statement because I wasn't exactly sure how to write it. So what we're going to do is we're going to do like a try catch kind of configuration here. So while this is true, we're going to try to make sure our meal cost is a float, right? And here's the input that we're going to have. If it's good, we're going to go ahead and break on out of the loop if we've got a float right here. If we don't, so this value error is something that you have in Python, and that's if the you don't have the right value. So if you've got somebody who tries to put a string or something in there, then we're gonna throw an exception, and it's going to tell us the input is invalid. Please enter a valid number for the meal cost. Okay, and here I didn't constrain how much it could be. I have limits on the other numbers in the next input sections here. So the next thing we're going to do, we're commented get input for meal quality. Input should be an integer because we want basically like a kind of like a Likert scale. We're going to have input between 1 and 10, 1 for if you didn't enjoy the meal, and 10 if you just thought the meal was fantastic. So again, we've got one of these while true statements. We're going to try the meal quality needs to be an integer here. Our input is going to be on a scale of 1 to 10. How much did you enjoy your meal? Again, I gave a little space here between the question mark and where the input would go. Here's a way of writing if the meal quality is between 1 and 10. So if 1 is less than or equal to the meal quality, which is the variable that we're getting from the input right here, and it's less than or equal to 10, it's going to be okay. We can go ahead and break out of the loop. Otherwise, it's going to prompt us again to put this in. If we have, for example, 11 or 20 or what have you, right? Because we're just rating on a scale of 1 to 10. This is one way to do it. If 1 is less than or equal to the meal quality, you could have, and I did it another way, you'll see in a few minutes, where I have something like if it's greater than one number and if it's less than another number. It's just another way of writing it, and I wanted to write it both ways, so that's what I did. Else, if this is not on a scale of 1 to 10, so if we don't have it here in this 1 to 10 range right here, and I hate to use the word range because that's a different kind of function in Python. Then if that's not the case, we're gonna got an else statement here. We're gonna print invalid input. Please enter a whole number between 1 and 10. All right. So if somebody gives us a decimal or gives us like the number 11 or 50 or what have you, it's going to throw this error. Then again, we've got this value error, right? So if we don't have an integer, we're prompting our user to put in a whole number between 1 and 10. Here we're going to get input for the service quality. So again, we've got one of these while true statements here. So we're going to try and make sure our service quality is an integer. Again, here we've got input on a scale of 1 to 10. How would you rate your service? Okay, again, we've got this command for if it's between 1 and 10, we're going to go ahead and break out of the loop. Otherwise, we're going to print invalid input. Please enter a whole number between 1 and 10. Very similar to what we had for rating the quality of the meal. Then again, here we've got this accept value error right here. We've got the wrong kind of data being input. Okay, so for the next part here, we're going to calculate the total quality of the sum of meal and service quality. So we're basically going to have a score out of 20 for total quality. Now, it would have been possible to add meal quality and service quality and just divide by 2 and have a score out of 10, but just kept it a little bit simpler here, right? Kept the equation as just total quality is meal quality plus service quality. So that's how we're going to calculate this total quality score and determine how much of a tip to leave. The next part, we're going to print the meal cost, meal quality, service quality, and then the total quality. So here we're going to use several F statements here. So what this F does is it allows us to pass a parameter here into these curly braces right here. So your meal cost was, and then whatever we got up here for meal cost, we're going to pass that value into here. Remember, that value is going to be a float. So your meal cost was, I'll put a $sign. If the meal was $18.75, that value would be passed in right here, and it would print it. It's just kind of restating what the customer's meal cost was. Then here we've got another F statement. You rated your meal quality as, here we're going to pass in meal quality, again, on scale of 1 to 10, right? Pass that into meal quality. So let's say they rated it as a 9. It'll say you rated your meal quality as 9 out of 10. Same thing with service quality. Rated your service quality as whatever the service quality number was out of 10. And then here we're going to print the total quality. So the total quality of your experience, that's your experience in the restaurant, which is composed of how much you enjoyed the meal and how good the service was. The total quality of your experience, which is a measure of your enjoyment of the meal and the service, was total quality. Remember, we get that number here by adding meal quality and service quality out of 20. Okay, so based on that, that's how we're going to calculate the tip and correlate that with the customer experience. It's going to be based on total quality. So remember, total quality, the total possibility is 20. So here I've got some if statements to determine where we're going to rank the total quality, depending on how good the meal quality and service quality was. So if the total quality is between 1 and 5, this is another way of, remember up here we wrote if 1 is less than or equal to meal quality, it's less than or equal to 10. So if the meal quality is between 1 and 10, here we did it a little different way. If total quality is greater than or equal to 1 and total quality is less than or equal to 5, it's a little longer to write it out this way, but I just wanted to do it both ways. Then we're going to say our tip percentage is 15. So notice we got 0.15 and our customer experience is poor. ELIF. So this is just the way Python does the shorthand. You may know in some other programming languages you could have else if. Here they just contract it as ELIF in Python. So else if total quality is greater than 5 and total quality is less than or equal to 10, tip percentage is going to be 18, 0.18, and the customer experience is mediocre. If it's greater than 10 and less than or equal to 15, we're going to tip 20%, and the customer experience is good. If it's between 15 and 18 total quality, we're going to tip 22%, and we're going to call the customer experience very good. Then the last condition here, which is just using else. So else if it's not any of these other values, not between 1 and 5, 5 and 10, and so on. If it's above 18, that means it must be 19 or 20. Right? So if it's 19 or 20, we're going to call the customer experience outstanding, and our tip percentage is going to be 25. Okay, so for the last part, what we're going to do is print the customer experience and proper tip percentage. So we're going to have a print, F statement here. Print F, this means that your customer experience was customer experience, and we're going to pass that in from here, depending on what the value of total quality was. Your customer experience was either poor, mediocre, good, very good, or outstanding. And a proper tip would be, and then here we've got our tip percentage. Did something a little different here. I multiplied tip percentage by 100 and then added percent, because rather than your tip would be like, let's say 0.22, if 22% tip, it might be a little nicer for the user to read, would be 22 and then percent. And I just made it an integer right here, because 22% would look a little bit nicer than 22.0%. So you just, multiply by 100 to get an actual percent value and made it an integer. Then here we're going to calculate and print the total payment by adding the tip to the sum of the meal. So like, your meal was let's say $20 and your experience was outstanding, so you're going to tip 25%. Well, that would mean 25% of 20 would be 5. We add that to the cost of the meal, we get $25. That's kind of what's going on here. So we're printing, since your meal cost before tip was $ meal cost, the proper tip would be, and then here we've got the same thing as this. We've got an integer with tip percentage times 100 to give us a percent that's not in a decimal point. Your total amount is, and then here we're going to add the meal cost to the product of the meal cost times the tip percentage, right? And we could do parentheses or something right here, but you really don't need to, because the order of operations is going to give us the multiplication first, and then add it to the meal cost. So let's see what all this looks like here. We'll go ahead and click on this button to run the program. Okay, so we can see here. Scroll down a little bit, we can follow along with what's happening in the code and what happens here in the console. So how much did you pay for your meal? That's this right here. So we want a float, right? So if I put something, let's just show so we can catch the value error right here. Let's say, how much did you pay for your meal? $20. That's not going to let me do that, right? Invalid input. Please enter a valid number for meal cost. So here we caught this error, right? Invalid input. Please enter a valid number for meal cost. Okay. Like I said, it's going to be a float. So let's say we've got $18.75. Okay. Okay. On a scale of 1 to 10, how much did you enjoy your meal? Okay. So here we want an integer, right? And if we put an integer that's outside of our 1 to 10 range, it's going to give us this, right? Invalid input. So let's say scale of 1 to 10, I liked it, a 50. Okay, please enter a whole number between 1 and 10. So here we caught this message. Okay, so we could also have the wrong kind of data. So scale of 1 to 10, how much did you enjoy your meal? Let's say 8. Like that. Well, that's not going to be right either. Okay. So invalid input. Here we caught this error. Please rate your meal quality using a whole number between 1 and 10. So now we're going to go ahead and we'll put in 8. Okay. So on a scale of 1 to 10, how would you rate your service? Same thing happens if we put in, something out of the range. We catch an error. If we put in something like it was fantastic, we're going to catch the error again. So we need to put in something on a scale of 1 to 10. So we'll put in 9, right? Well, now we're going to go down here, and here's where we get these printed statements. So your meal cost was, we passed in the parameter of meal cost. So your meal cost was $18.75. Then here you rated your meal quality as, here we passed in meal quality out of 10, which was 8 out of 10. You rated your service as service quality out of 10. So you rated your service as 9 out of 10, right? So we were passing in 9 for service quality because that's what we put in right here. Okay. So then remember, we calculated the total quality, right, as meal quality plus service quality. So we get the total quality of your experience, which is a measure of your enjoyment of the meal and the service, was, we pass in the total quality, 17 out of 20. Okay. Then down here, here's where we calculated the tip amount and the customer experience based on total quality, and gave the customer experience some qualitative value of poor, mediocre, etc. Okay, this means that your customer experience was, and then here we pass in very good, because 17 is between 15 and 18, so we're going to pass in very good. Your customer experience was very good. Proper tip would be 22%, right? So that's very good, 22 from here. Here's where we do the calculation, okay? And then finally here we get the calculation of the total amount, okay? Which would be the meal cost. So plus the tip amount. So since your meal before tip was meal cost, $18.75, the proper tip would be, here's our percentage, 22%. Your total amount is 22.875. I guess I could go here and use a math function to round that. So you know, stop share for just a second here. Okay, so I'm back again. I was looking around, I was doing a little bit of Googling, trying to figure out what I need to do about rounding the final output to 2 decimal places so that we can see a dollar and cents amount and not have 3 decimal places. Not that any user couldn't just, round 1 cent one way or the other. But let me share my screen because I'm still struggling with this a little bit here. So this is what I've got right here. I was trying a couple of different things. So I actually created a new variable called total amount. Before in here I just had the tip percentage times the meal cost plus the meal cost to get the amount. We could also store that in a variable over here as total amount. And I had done meal cost plus tip percentage, and that would be the idea behind it, behind creating this other variable. But you can also use round, and you should be able to use this round and then have your variable here that you're rounding, comma, and then as a second argument here, you should be able to put the number of decimal places. But that wasn't quite working for me. Then what I found is you should also be able to do this, the name of the variable dot 2f, or dot 2f, and I found a bunch of examples where people had like a number and they were rounding, but I was looking for ones with variables, and I thought this would work, but it doesn't quite seem to be working. So if we end up with a total amount that is 3 decimal places, it seems to be keeping that. So let's take another look here, see what we've got here. How much did you pay for your meal? We'll just go through and we'll say we paid like $20 for the meal. Scale of 1 to 10, how much did you enjoy your meal? Let's say we really enjoyed it. We enjoyed it a 9. How would you rate your service? Let's say the service was a 10. So here it tells us, the total rated your service is 10 out of 10. Meal quality is 9 out of 10. Meal cost was $20. This also has 1 decimal place instead of 2, because that's how a float usually surfaces, but that may be a way around that I'm not really super sure about yet. Then the total quality of your experience for the meal and the service was 19 out of 20. That makes it outstanding. And a proper tip would be 25%. So here it's simple. Cost before your tip was $20. Proper tip is 25%. Total amount is $25. But if we run it again and we try 1875 again, we enjoyed it a 9, rated the service 8, let's say. Then here, proper tip would be 22%. I'm not figuring out how to get this to show me $22.86 instead of 22.875. So that's something I'll keep working on. But for now, I'm going to go ahead and just upload the video. I think this was a pretty fun little Oh, the other thing I tried to do is this import math. I don't know if it worked right here. I tried it in Google Colab, and it the formatting's a little different. Here it's grayed out almost like a comment. So I don't know if that might be part of the problem. Maybe it didn't import the math library into Python, but I'm gonna let it go for right now. I'll probably mess with this a little bit later, but for now I'm just gonna upload what I have. So I'll stop sharing, and yeah, thanks.